Hey everyone, welcome to day 240 in our Bible in a Year Plus podcast. Today we're in the book of Lamentations. We're going to see a really important spiritual truth about how reluctant God is to send hardship into our lives. NFL coach Tom Landry's biography describes this episode in his life when he and his team acquired one of the most talented college running backs in the history of football. And it was a real source of excitement for all football lovers in America at that time. But the young man was bitter about something in his life, and he just couldn't be persuaded to devote himself to professional football. And Coach Landry says he would sit in meetings, his stocking cap pulled down over his eyes. He refused to do warm-up calisthenics. He didn't talk with his teammates. Then one day, he didn't even come to practice. And when Coach Landry went to talk to him about it, he said, "I just didn't feel like it." And Landry said, "I cared about him. He was obviously a troubled young man, and I wanted to help him. I had no choice but to trade him, but having no choice didn't keep me from feeling sick about it. He needed help, but I hadn't been able to get through to him." And that young man's career and life trajectory never recovered after Tom Landry had to give up on him like that. Today we're going to read about how reluctant God is to send suffering into any person's life, but he has to do it. And so today we read about that in the book of Lamentations, chapters 1 through 3, beginning chapter 1, verse 1 in the King James Version of the Bible with updated vocabulary, but you can follow along in another version if that's what you prefer. Lamentations 1:1. How does the city sit solitary that was full of people? How has she become as a widow, she that was great among the nations and a princess among the provinces? How has she become a slave? She weeps sorely in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers, she has none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt betrayingly with her. They have become her enemies. Judah has gone into captivity because of affliction and because of great servitude. She lives among the Gentiles and finds no rest. All her persecutors overtook her between the distresses. The paths of Zion mourn because no one comes to the solemn feast. All her gates are desolate. Her priests sigh. Her virgins are afflicted, and she is in bitterness. Her adversaries are the superiors. Her enemies prosper, for the Lord has afflicted her for the multitude of her transgressions. Her children have gone into captivity before the enemy. And from the daughter of Zion, all her beauty has departed. Her princes have become like deer that find no pasture, and they have gone without strength before the pursuer. Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction and her miseries. Verse 7. Jerusalem remembered in the days of her affliction and miseries all her pleasant things that she had in the days of old, when her people fell into the hand of the enemy and none helped her. The adversary saw her and mocked at her Sabbaths. Jerusalem has grievously sinned, therefore she is removed. All who honored her despise her, because they have seen her nakedness. Yes, she sighs and turns backward. Her filthiness is in her skirts. She does not remember her end, therefore she came down astonishingly. She had no comforter. O Lord, see my affliction, for the enemy has magnified himself. The adversary has spread out his hand upon all her pleasant things, for she has seen that the Gentiles entered into her sanctuary, whom you commanded that they should not enter into your congregation. And all her people sigh. They seek bread. They have given their pleasant things for food to relieve the soul. See, O Lord, and consider, for I have become vile. Is it nothing to you, all you who pass by? Observe and see if there is any sorrow like my sorrow, which has come to me, with which the Lord has afflicted me in the day of his fierce anger. From above he has sent fire into my bones, and it prevails against them. He has spread a net for my feet. He has turned me back. He has made me desolate and faint all day. The yoke of my transgressions is bound by his hand. They are braided and come up upon my neck. He has made my strength to fall. The Lord has delivered me into their hands, from whom I am not able to rise up. The Lord has trampled underfoot all my mighty men in the midst of me. He has called an assembly against me to crush my young men. The Lord has trampled the virgin, the daughter of Judah, as in a winepress. For these things I weep. My eye runs down with water, because the comforter that should relieve my soul is far from me. My children are desolate, because the enemy prevailed. Zion spreads forth her hands, and there's no one to comfort her. The Lord has commanded concerning Jacob that his adversaries should be all around him. Jerusalem is as a menstruous woman among them. The Lord is righteous, for I have rebelled against his commandment. Hear, I pray you, all people, and see my sorrow. My virgins and my young men have gone into captivity. I called for my lovers, but they deceived me. My priests and my elders gave up the ghost in the city while they sought their food to relieve their souls. See, O Lord, for I am in distress. My bowels are troubled. My heart is turned within me, for I have grievously rebelled. Abroad the sword bereaves. At home there is as death. They have heard that I sigh. There is no one to comfort me. All my enemies have heard of my trouble. They are glad that you have done it. Bring on the day that you have announced. They shall be like me. Let all their wickedness come before you, and do to them as you have done to me for all my transgressions. For my sighs are many, and my heart is faint. Chapter 2. How has the Lord covered the daughter of Zion with a cloud in his anger, and cast down from heaven unto earth the beauty of Israel, and did not remember his footstool in the day of his anger? The Lord has swallowed up all the inhabitants of Jacob, and has not pitied. He has thrown down in his wrath the strongholds of the daughter of Judah. He has brought them down to the ground. He has polluted the kingdom and the princes of it. He has cut off in his fierce anger all the horn of Israel. He has drawn back his right hand from before the enemy, and he burned against Jacob like a flaming fire which devours all around. He has bent his bow like an enemy. He stood with his right hand as an adversary, and slew all that were pleasant in the eye to the tabernacle of the daughter of Zion. He poured out his fury like fire. The Lord was as an enemy. He has swallowed up Israel. He has swallowed up all her palaces. He has destroyed his strongholds, and has increased in the daughter of Judah mourning and lamentation. He has violently taken away his tabernacle as if it were of a garden. He has destroyed his places of the assembly. The Lord has caused the solemn feasts and the Sabbaths to be forgotten in Zion, and has despised in the indignation his anger, and has despised in the indignation of his anger the king and the priest. The Lord has cast off his altar. He has abhorred his sanctuary. He has given up into the hand of the enemy the walls of her palaces. They have made a noise in the house of the Lord, as in the day of a solemn feast. The Lord has purposed to destroy the wall of the daughter of Zion. He has stretched out a line. He has not withdrawn his hand from destroying. Therefore he made the rampart and the wall to lament. They languish together. Her gates have sunk into the ground. He has destroyed and broken her bars. Her king and her princes are among the Gentiles. The law is no more. Her prophets also find no vision from the Lord. The elders of the daughter of Zion sit upon the ground and keep silence. They have cast up dust upon their heads. They have girded themselves with sackcloth. The virgins of Jerusalem hang down their heads to the ground. My eyes fail with tears. My bowels are troubled. My liver is poured upon the earth for the destruction of the daughter of my people, because the children and the nursing infants swoon in the streets of the city. They say to their mothers, where is grain and wine? When they swooned as the wounded in the streets of the city, when their soul was poured out into the mother's bosom. What thing shall I take to witness for you? What thing shall I liken to you, O daughter of Jerusalem? What shall I equal to you, that I may comfort you, O virgin daughter of Zion? For your gap is great, like the sea. Who can heal it? Your prophets have seen worthless and foolish things for you, and they have not uncovered your iniquity to turn away your captivity, but have seen for you false burdens and causes for banishment. All that pass by clap their hands at you. They hiss and shake their head at the daughter of Jerusalem, saying, is this the city that men call the perfection of beauty, the joy of the whole earth? All your enemies have opened their mouth against you. They hiss and gnash the teeth. They say, we have swallowed her up. Certainly, this is the day that we looked for. We have found, we have seen it. The Lord has done that which he schemed. He has fulfilled his word that he has commanded in the days of old. He has thrown down, has not pitied. He has caused your enemy to rejoice over you. He has set up the horn of your adversaries. Their heart cried unto the Lord, O wall of the daughter of Zion, let tears run down like a river day and night. Give yourself no rest. Do not let the apple of your eye cease. Arise, cry out in the night, in the beginning of the watches. Pour out your heart like water before the face of the Lord. Lift up your hands toward him for the life of your young children that faint for hunger in the top of every street. See, O Lord, and consider to whom you have done this. Shall the women eat their fruit, and children of a span long? Shall the priest and the prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? The young and the old lie on the ground in the streets. My virgins and my young men are fallen by the sword. You have killed them in the day of your anger. You have killed and not pitied. You have called us in solemn day, my terrors all around, so that in the day of the Lord's anger no one escaped nor remained. Those that I have swaddled and brought up, my enemy has consumed. Chapter 3. I am the man that has seen affliction by the rod of his wrath. He has led me and brought me into darkness, but not into light. Surely against me he has turned. He turns his hand against me all day. My flesh and my skin he has made old. He has broken my bones. He has built against me and surrounded me with gall and travail. He has set me in the dark places as those who are dead of old. He has hedged me about so that I cannot get out. He has made my chain heavy. And when I cry and shout, he shuts out my prayer. He has enclosed my ways with chiseled stone. He has made my paths crooked. He was to me like a bear lying in ambush, and as a lion in secret places. He has turned aside my ways and pulled me in pieces. He has made me desolate. He has bent his bow and set me as a target for the arrow. He has caused the arrows of his quiver to enter into my reins. He was a derision. I was a derision to all my people and their song all day. He has filled me with bitterness. He has made me drunk with wormwood. He has also broken my teeth with gravel stones. He has covered me with ashes. And you have removed my soul far off from peace. I forgot prosperity. And I said, my strength and my hope is perished from the Lord. Remembering my affliction and my misery, the wormwood and the gall, my soul has them still in remembrance and is humbled in me. This I recall to my mind, therefore I have hope. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions do not fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, declares my soul. Therefore, I will hope in him. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that a man should both hope and quietly wait for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man that he carry the yoke in his youth. He sits alone and keeps silence because God has laid it upon him. He puts his mouth in the dust, if so be that there may be hope. He gives his cheek to him who smites him. He is filled full with reproach. For the Lord will not cast us off forever, but though he cause grief, yet he will have compassion according to the multitude of his mercies. For he does not afflict willingly, nor grieve the children of men, to crush under his feet all the prisoners of the earth, to turn aside the right of a man before the face of the Most High, to subvert a man in his cause. The Lord does not approve. Who is he who says, and it comes to pass, when the Lord does not command it? Out of the mouth of the Most High does not evil and good proceed? Why does a living man complain, a man for the punishment of his sins? Let us search and try our ways and turn again to the Lord. Let us lift up our heart with our hands unto God in the heavens. We have transgressed and have rebelled. You have not pardoned. You have covered yourself with anger and persecuted us. You have slain. You have not pitied. You have covered yourself with a cloud that our prayers should not pass through. You have made us as the offscouring and refuse in the midst of the people, and our enemies have opened their mouths against us. Fear and a snare has come upon us, desolation and destruction. My eye runs down with rivers of water for the destruction of the daughter of my people. My eye trickles down and does not cease without any intermission, till the Lord looks down and beholds from heaven. My eye brings grief to my heart because of all the daughters of my city. My enemies chase me sorely like a bird without cause. They have cut off my life in the dungeon and cast a stone upon me. Waters flowed over my head, and then I said, I am cut off. I called upon your name, O Lord, out of the low dungeon. You heard my voice. Do not hide your ear at my breathing, at my cry. You drew near. In that day that I called upon you, you said, do not be afraid. O Lord, you have pled the causes of my soul. You have redeemed my life. O Lord, you have seen my wrong. Judge my cause. You have seen all their vengeance and all their indignations against me. You have heard their reproach, O Lord, and all their imaginations against me, the lips of those who rose up against me, and their scheme against me all day. See, they're sitting down, they're rising up. I am their music. Bring unto them a repayment, O Lord, according to the work of their hands. Give them sorrow of heart, your curse unto them. Persecute and destroy them in anger from under the heavens of the Lord. And that concludes Lamentations chapter 3. We saw here in the opening of Lamentations that these are very sad words. The book of Lamentations is a 5-chapter, 5-song funeral dirge. There are 5 funeral songs or 5 funeral poems with a rhythm. And as Jeremiah wanders back and forth around the streets of Jerusalem, which is now reduced to charred ruins, he is thinking these thoughts, these lamentations, these sad thoughts. In chapters 1, 2, and 4, you'll see that there are 22 verses. 22 verses because there are 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet, and each verse starts with a new letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So these are acrostic psalms. And you'll notice in chapter 3, we don't have 22 verses, we have 66 verses. But this is because there are now 3 verses devoted to each letter of the Hebrew alphabet. So once again, we have 66 instead of 22, 3 verses for each letter of the alphabet. Then when you come to chapter 5, you think, aha, I have it. Because there are 22 verses in chapter 5, this must be 1 verse for each letter in the Hebrew alphabet. But no, not this time. This time there are 22 verses, but not 1 for each letter of the Hebrew alphabet. No letters of the Hebrew alphabet are evident. So we conclude by that this is supposed to depict chaos. All the order has fallen apart. This is, the saddest thing of all, that Jerusalem is destroyed and there is no order. There's only chaos. So 22 verses, but they do not align with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. You'll see that in Lamentations chapter 1, verse 12. This sounds so messianic. Remember, we said that in Matthew 16:14, the disciples say, well, some people around here think that you're Jeremiah the prophet because he wept all the time and you're very tender-hearted and you sound just like Jeremiah to them. Well, Lamentations 1, verse 12 sure does sound messianic, doesn't it? It says, is it nothing to you, all you who pass by? Observe and see if there is any sorrow like my sorrow, which is done unto me, with which the Lord has afflicted me in the day of his fierce anger. And this sounds just like Jesus on the cross. Is there any sorrow like my sorrow when the Lord laid all the sins of the world on me on the cross? His anger poured out on me so that I died on the cross. It sounds very messianic. And so once again, Jeremiah is a picture of the Messiah. In Lamentations chapter 2, verse 14, we read that the Jewish clergy have made things worse instead of better. They were supposed to lead, they were supposed to be examples, and instead they made everything worse. It says, your prophets have seen worthless and foolish things for you, and they have not uncovered your iniquity to turn away your captivity, but have seen false burdens. So here the Jewish clergy made everything worse, and they weren't honest at all. In Lamentations chapter 2, verse 20, you have this horrific mention of cannibalism of the Israelites under siege. See, O Lord, and consider to whom you have done this. Shall the women eat their fruit, eat their children? Children of a span long, they're just, a hand length long. And shall the priest and the prophet be killed in the sanctuary of the Lord? We're talking here about women cannibalizing their children. And you'll remember that this was foretold in Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28. It actually came to pass again in 2 Kings 6, 28 through 29. In the days when Samaria was under siege in the days of King Jehoram. How awful. And then we were told in Jeremiah 19 verse 9 that it was going to happen. When we come to Lamentations chapter 4, we'll see another reference to it. This is the cannibalism of beautiful Jewish mothers and fathers eating their children. Oh no. In chapter 3 verses 22 through 23, we see this wonderful text from which we get the hymn, Great is Thy Faithfulness. It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because His compassions do not fail. They are new every morning. Great is Thy faithfulness. We love that. Every part of that is so wonderful, and it's reminding us that the Lord has a new mercy for this morning, every day. Morning by morning, new mercies I see. They are new every morning. And tomorrow when you wake up, you'll have another mercy. And the day after that, another mercy, another compassion. They are new every morning. Great is the Lord's faithfulness. His mercy is loving kindness towards us. And in chapter 3, verse 33, this wonderful idea that we started with in the beginning of our podcast episode today. Verse 33 of chapter 3, God does not afflict willingly. He doesn't wish to send hardship. He does not afflict willingly, nor grieve the children of men. If the Lord sends hardship into your life, it's because He has to. And this is the great life lesson that we want to draw from this section of Lamentations today. The Lord does not like to do this. He does not wish to do it. Remember, as Tom Landry was cutting loose that player, and it really changed that player's life for the rest of his life in a negative way, he said, just because I had to do it doesn't mean I didn't hate to do it. I hated to do it, but I had to do it. And that's how the Lord is for us. He does send hardship into our life because He has to. Even though He hates to do it, He has to do it. And it's because He can't just let evil escalate in His world. He can't let that happen, including our own evil. So He might have to send hardship into our lives to keep our own evil from escalating. But the Lord doesn't wish to. He does it because He has to. He has to. Because not only to keep our evil from escalating, but if we're being good, we never achieve our maximum wisdom and compassion and usefulness in the world until we see that it is a great idea, a necessary idea for us to suffer for a grand cause. And only suffering can teach us how wonderful it is to suffer for a grand cause. And also because others need to see and be inspired by our example of loyalty and love to the Lord in order that they might follow our example and in order that we might have everlasting reward. So the Lord does indeed send affliction into our lives, but not because He really wants to. He dreads it, but He has to, because it's the only way for us to grow and meet our potential, for us to have rewards in heaven, and for us to be arrested in our waywardness. So this should be our prayer. Here we go. It sounds absurd, I know. But today, let's thank the Lord for the hardship He sends into our lives to arrest our waywardness, to accelerate our growth, and to showcase our love and loyalty. I hope you'll pray in your heart as I pray out loud, okay? Father God, it's hard for us to do this, but we want to thank You today for the hardship that You send into our lives. We thank You for the hardship that You are sending into our lives today, because we know that's the only way sometimes that You can arrest our waywardness, accelerate our growth, and showcase our love and loyalty. So Lord, please send us whatever You think is wise and necessary along the lines of hardship, and we thank You for it in Jesus' name. Amen. Well, okay, God bless you. Thank you for praying that hard prayer with me, and thank you for joining me for this day in our Bible in a Year Plus podcast, day 240, and I sure hope I get to see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.